I'm Jared Ginsberg,
This is Victor Green.
and we welcome you back to Class Act Sports to talk about anything sports and what's relevant in today's sports world. Vic, obviously, what's relevant to you is the New York Jets just keep losing, and they can't find a way to get back on track to their winning ways. What do you do? You talked about how crucial that game was. What do you do if you're Rex Ryan? What are you talking to your team about?
Well, obviously they got to get to the point where they can win another game. They got a tough game in Pittsburgh this week. Rick's had some talk on bitching, Sanchez, and he has to play better. And I think we talked previously with the Monday night game against New England. He had to play better. He didn't. He didn't play well this Sunday. He have to play very well against Pittsburgh because the defense is really good, and it started with him. And I don't think it go past him if he don't play well. So if they lose this game, I mean, I don't think they will make the playoffs.
Well, speaking of this game, the Jets they're going to Pittsburgh. That's not exactly an easy game. What are you doing? It's almost like they backed themselves into a hole. Talk about what stood out in your mind. Why did they lose to the Dolphins at home?
I mean, no offense. They don't have a running game. Sanchez, with the turnovers that they had, they got to protect the ball better. With all the money that they pay in that offensive line, they got to be able to protect Sanchez a lot better than they have. They've been very good in the past, but the last few games, they've been very suspect. They just lost one of their key guys, and Damian Woody is out for the next 3 games. So that's going to be a huge blow to them. So they got to be able to protect Sanchez. And I think, again, going up in Pittsburgh with one of the best defenses in the league, it's going to be tough. But they got to establish a run to open up the pass for Sanchez. But first and foremost, they got to be able to block for him.
Vic, you talk about no offense, and I know you just alluded to the offensive line's difficulties of protecting the quarterback, but where's the heat on Brian Schottenheimer? I mean, their playbook is about as predictable as the weather right now in New York, and it's cold here. But I'll tell you, Schottenheimer is, he needs to be under the hot seat. You've seen him go late in the season and laying eggs. Obviously he did it last year until he got hot in that game against the Bengals. He called a real good game. But it just looks like, they don't really know who they are. They're a running team, but then, they panic when they can't get the run game going. And they obviously have shown they've had some difficulties from playing from behind when it's double digit leads. And I'm worried for the Jets right now, as everyone else is. But I think if they get this game here in Pittsburgh, a tough test, a banged up Ben Roethlisberger, they got to get back to those blitzing ways, putting pressure on the quarterback, and letting their defense create. And I do think that it's a very winnable game for the Jets, as tough as it seems. But I think it's a good test, a good barometer, strength of schedule, and get them back to their winning ways.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Schottenheimer, he has to take some of the blame. But again, I don't think they know who they are right now. They get down, they want to pass the ball. Games in the past, they've been able to come back from behind, but those close games, they can't really find out who they are. They want to run the ball, that's not there. They try to put it in Sanchez's hands. He's not playing particularly well, so I think it's a very vanilla offense that they're running right now, that they have to find a way and stick with what working for them. And I think they got to run the ball. They got to get to the point where they can pound the ball with that big offensive line and then rely on their defense to keep teams as they did with Miami to 10 points. And really, three of those points came on turnovers. So they have to get back to their football, let the defense keep them in the game, and be able to create some plays offensively and get back on track.
And Vic,
But it's going to be a tough game for them in Pittsburgh. It's a game that they can win, obviously, even with a banged up Ben Roethlisberger. It's going to be a tough game up there.
oh, there's no doubt, but more so than any other quarterback in the league. And you see Sanchez in and out, hot and cold, up and down. Fans love him. They want him out. I mean, he's the answer. He's the problem. Have you ever seen anything like it with any other quarterback like this, where one week he looks like he's getting better with each and every snap, and then the next week that team and that coach won't even trust him on a third down where they put in a little bit of Brad Smith on a wildcat. I mean, that speaks volumes to me.
Well, absolutely. You look at his last, 5 games. The guy's thrown 12 interceptions. The first 5, he had no interceptions. So he's definitely struggling right now. And when he plays well, the team plays well. And we continue to talk about that team revolves around him playing well. And if he don't play well, they're gonna struggle. Defensively, they're gonna stay in the game. But if they continue to turn the ball over, the line don't block for him, he can't get the snap, they're gonna struggle. And he have to find a way to play better, whether it's watching more film, taking a look more at Tom Brady, or whatever it is. But Sanchez has to be that franchise quarterback they brought him in to be.
Absolutely. Victor, let me ask you a question. I mean, obviously, now we're going to switch gears a bit, talk about the bonehead play of the week last week. As everyone knows, Jets conditioning coach Sal Alosi, he trips a gunner on the outside, almost hurts this player, almost injures him for his career. I'm going to take it to that extent because he almost blew out his knee. As a player, as a former player, what's going through your head if you're on the Jets? What are you thinking when your coach just pulled something like that? And also, if you're an opposing player on the Dolphins, what are you thinking if someone just did that to one of your teammates?
There's no room for it in the game. And, that was a bonehead play by the coach. You got 11 guys you're playing against. You don't need 12. And he obviously was that 12th guy out on the field right now. And it was totally uncalled for. You're right. He could have ended the guy's career. And it's no room for it in the league. I'm glad he got suspended for the last 3 games of the year. And they sent a message with another $25,000 fine. But, he may be out the league for next year as well because, when a coach do something like that, clearly he said, hey, I wasn't thinking, but hey, duh, obviously you wasn't thinking. But you can't do that, from a player standpoint. If that was me, I mean, is no apology accepted. I mean, because, hey, again, you could have ended my career, so you may just lose 3 games, but I could have lose my career and there's no room for it in the game. So, I don't know if a tougher penalty was handed down to him, but whatever he deserved to get.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take this to the next level and possibly throw out the possibility. Can he possibly never coach again, never be allowed on the sidelines again for the rest of his career?
It's possible. And I mean, it's just like a player. Once you become a cancer, or a guy that's a troublemaker in the league, it's very tough for that guy to continue to work in the NFL. And I think he will get another opportunity. If he's a good weight and conditioning strength coach, he will get another opportunity. Just like, guys get in trouble and get a second chance. Hey, I'm not trying to keep the guy from work, but he got to understand that that's consequence to all our actions. And, if they want to find guys from helmet to helmet, that's, he, came in contact with a defensive player and he could have ended again his career.
How do you take
So
this guy seriously? I mean, if you're now playing under him as a conditioning coach and he's conditioning you and he's yelling at you and he's trying to motivate you, how do you take this guy seriously as a person, let alone a coach, and respect anything that this guy says?
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, and also he just got an award for one of the best sportsmanlike guy, mayor's award or whatever he received for sportsmanlike, and that definitely wasn't a sportsmanlike conduct. A tripping a player in a game situation when you're not even a head coach. Maybe the head coach something, but you as you're a strength and conditioning coach. But again, there's no room. There's no room in the game for that. Playing against 11 guys is tough enough, and trying to add another player to try to beat. You're already 2 against 1 as it is as a gunner.
Right.
Now you're 3 against 1. It's a tough deal.
And you talk about the award. I don't know who is handing that award out. I mean, possibly Bernie Madoff at that point. I don't know who's making this guy in charge of anything for that matter. All right, let's talk about Thursday night's matchup. San Francisco goes on the road and they're playing in San Diego. This is a playoff game for both teams. You know, win and you have a chance to move on, and lose and you're out. Who do you got Thursday night and why?
Well, San Diego, San Diego is playing really well. Even the game that they lose, they're losing. They're a pretty close game, other than the Oakland game. But I like Philip Rivers. I like Antonio Gates, and San Francisco just been too inconsistent. They don't know who they want to put at quarterback. Frank Gore's out for the year. So I just think it's too much. They've been too inconsistent throughout the year. They'll win one, they'll lose two. So I really like San Diego, and I look for them to maybe be the team to come out of the AFC West there.
And it's now we're talking about obviously the Giants. A very strange week. They took care of business in Detroit against Minnesota. Now they got a short week. They got to come back strong against the Eagles on Sunday. I mean, this is a monster game for both teams. The winner of this game will most likely be winning the NFC East. What's your thoughts on the Giants-Eagles rivalry?
That whole division is a rival, and when you talk about two of the better teams right now with the Giants and Philadelphia, it is the team that win is definitely probably win the division. It's a big game for both teams. You got Michael Vick, who's playing probably better than any quarterback other than Tom Brady in the league right now. And that team is really vibing around Michael Vick. And then you got the Giants, who's can't seem to get it together. So it's going to be a good game. And this whole league this year has been a lot of good games, and it's going to be a tough game. So the winner come out of this defense is going to be a big part in this game. And I think what team play better defense will win this football game.
Well, when you say the Giants can't seem to get it together, it's probably because of the inconsistency and injuries at the wide receiver position, and that's why I think they need to get back to their running ways. Obviously you saw against the Vikings, they came out, Eli threw two quick interceptions, doesn't play well versus the Vikings, and then they get a 70-yard run ripped off by Brandon Jacobs, and Ahmad Bradshaw does his thing. So, if they get that running game going, keep their defense fresh, I do believe that they're going to be successful. But we saw the Giants come out last time trying to establish the run, and next thing they were unsuccessful and they panicked. And they were just, but when they did air it out in the second half, they were doing their thing as well. So I think it remains to be seen, but I think the most important thing for the Giants to be successful on Sunday is to keep the Eagles out of the end zone. Now that sounds simple, it sounds basic, but the Eagles are a team, they have a very high-powered offense. They're going to move the ball. They are going to move the chains. They are going to move the ball. But when they get down in the red zone and the Giants defense has their backs against the wall, they got to hold the Eagles to 3 as much as possible. And on the flip side, when the Giants go down in the red zone, they got to execute for touchdowns. I think whoever wins the battle of that red zone, whoever's putting up those points between that 20-yard line and the end zone, I think that's going to be the winner of the game.
Well, red zone is always critical in NFL, but I think the deep play ability of Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick, that's what they got to really pay attention to. Down in the red zone, Michael Vick obviously it's going to be the guy that they got to keep, but they got to stop the big play of those two guys, and also with Macklin. You mentioned the Giants receivers is banged up right now and out. They got to be able to run the football, and I think they can run it well against the Eagles. Dallas has some success running the football, but it's the big play of Philadelphia that they got to contain to win the football game.
Because it's such a huge game. I'd like to stay here for one more minute. Let's just talk about the keys also to the Giants on defense. I mean, you see their first-round pick, Jason Pierre-Paul. He's playing out of his mind. The athletic freak. He's really starting to play some football out there. And I also like what Perry Fewell, the defensive coordinator for the Giants, has been doing with safety Antrell Roll. And you don't go out and get a versatile safety like that to not move him around and do different things with him. Finally, they have him at the line of scrimmage. They're throwing him into the backfield. They're blitzing. They're dropping. I mean, they're doing everything necessary to use him to his strengths, as I think they should do with the rest of the players on the team. And that's what makes the Patriots and Bill Belichick so successful, working the players into their scheme.
Right, absolutely, and I think he's doing a great job with those guys. Intro was a great pickup from Arizona. He played some corner in college, so he's very versatile. Like you say, moving him up around the line of scrimmage, creating some opportunities for him, and that's where the defensive coordinators get their money's worth. They use guys like Pierre, they use guys like Antrell Rose, and put them in situations where they can make players. Because you gotta utilize your playmakers. You look at Dallas. I mean, you look at Pittsburgh and with Palomala, how they use him. You look at, other teams around the league and how they use their players. You have to use your playmakers. Ed Reed with Baltimore. Those guys have to make plays for you. You got to put them in situations where they can be successful. And that's what Fuel is doing a great job with the Giants this year with those guys.
When I see the Giants struggling sometimes, it's usually when the opposing defense gets pressure on us. And when I say us, I'm speaking from a Giants fan's perspective. When you put pressure on Eli Manning, when you put pressure on Peyton Manning, the best of the best, and they run into some problems. So I think it's going to be very important if the Eagles want to be successful in this game for them to get after the quarterback and to most certainly stop the run. So that's going to take the help of guys like Trent Cole, who's having a great year. And they do have a bit of an undersized defense. They're fast, but they're most certainly undersized. And the fact that they just lost Stuart Bradley, most likely for this week, but also their rookie defensive end, Brandon Graham, who's been starting to get after the quarterback. I think the loss of those two guys, Stuart Bradley and as well as Brandon Graham, I think that's going to hurt the Eagles. I think that may even decide this one.
Well, absolutely. You got to throw another name out there. Salte Samuel, who's been out for the last couple of weeks, is a key guy for their secondary. So I think if they can get him back this week, especially with a beat up wide receiver for the Giants core, I think that's going to be a key component there. But it's going to be such a great game. It's going to be a chess match. Who's going to draw up the best play to beat the other team. But I'm looking forward to this matchup. I think, like you said, the best team's going to come out. Will win the NFC East here.
Now, Brett Favre's streak finally came to an end, and rightfully so. He deserves all the credit in the world. Have you ever seen such a situation where a living legacy that's still playing the game, people don't respect him as much as they used to for whatever reason, with what happened with Green Bay, for him going to the Jets and going to the Vikings. But I think a couple years down the road, people will really come to terms with the fact of how great Favre really was.
I mean, he's definitely a Hall of Famer, first ballot. 297 games is remarkable. I mean, to put that in perspective, I played for a long time in the league. I think I played 161 straight games as a defensive player. And he, about another 130 games. That is phenomenal. I mean, for a streak in the NFL, as brutal as this sport is, for 20 years to never miss a game. I mean, people may look at Brett right now with all their antics as far as should I play, should I not play, and go from the Jets to Minnesota. It's a lot going on with Brett. But the thing that you can say about Brett is Brett, and when he's out on the football field, he gives it up every single game. The guy played hurt. He played with, broken foot. He played with, shoulders just messed up. So you got to give credit to Brett Favre. And if this is it for him, he going out on top for me, even if the season wasn't a success for him. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, 297 games. You throw in the playoffs, 321 games with the playoffs that he was involved in. That's a streak that probably will never be touched again.
And he deserves all the credit in the world right there. Vic, let's stay in the division, the NFC North. Coming into this season, people thought you had the Packers, coming out of this division, and the others thought the Vikings But now the Vikings are obviously out of it. The Lions have been a disappointment as far as their record goes, but they're still playing hard and competitive each and every week. And then that leaves us with the Bears and the Packers. Packers just had a disappointing loss to the Lions, and they lost Aaron Rodgers. And he's got some concussion issues that he's got to deal with. May not even be playing on Sunday versus the Pats. And then the following week they play the Giants. So you look at the schedule, you look at what's going on, and what is your take on the Chicago Bears winning this division?
I'm not sold on Chicago. They just took a beating from from New England, who's playing very well. They still have to play. They have a tough schedule down the stretch as well. So I still think Green Bay gonna come out of that division. Even as good as Chicago has played, they've still been very inconsistent. I still like Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers did suffer a concussion, is doubtful for this Sunday, but I think they'll get it together. And they still got some good receivers. I think Flynn, he's going to be able to step right in with a week worth of practice, and they'll be able to win this division. I just don't see Chicago winning this division right now, and because they got a tough stretch down the road. But I like Green Bay.
All right, well, that about wraps it up. From Class Act Sports, I'm Jared Ginsberg.
And this is Victor Green, and you're watching Class Act Sports.